Our priority is to establish a lasting ceasefire in Gaza. Those are not the words of Anthony Blinken or President Biden or any European leader or any other Western leader or the Israeli opposition, the Israeli protesters. These are the words of the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations. But they could have been any of the above, because basically the West is now, after initially, immediately after October 7th, expressing sympathy towards Israel, condemning the attacks, saying that Israel has the right to defend itself, saying in speaking in terms that I on this channel said I'm surprised how strongly the U.S. stands with Israel, even knowing that the U.S. is considered Israel's closest ally, and it is Israel's closest ally. That just says something about Israel's other allies. Um, but yeah, after that and between then and now, we have gotten to a point where the West has completely abandoned Israel to the point where they are speaking in the same terms as the people who funded this attack and are basically the puppet masters of the people who carried out this attack. We've been from time to time accused of clickbaity headlines. I don't think those accusations are ever correct, by the way. But in this case, I think we are absolutely spot on, if I may say so myself. The US and Iran now share a policy when it comes to the war Hamas and the Palestinian people started against Israel. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm joined by James Valliant. James, your thoughts on this recent development and your country's newest apparent ally.
Yes, well, they have been implicitly an ally of certain administrations and a little less implicitly an ally of just about every administration since the evil Islamic Republic took over in Tehran. It seems paradoxical for me to say that because, of course, American leaders always put Iran on the enemies list, but we've never treated them like an enemy. We've let them get away with murder time and again. When, for example, Americans were slaughtered, American Marines were slaughtered in the early 1980s in Lebanon. Guess who was behind that? Well, we know who's behind the terrorists in Lebanon. That's Iran. And act of war after act of war from Iran has taken place, and America still wants to make up, be friends, not take what action is appropriate, and in so doing, have in effect sanctioned the existence of the evil Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, the ceasefire talk began what, October 8th? I mean, before Israel did anything, we were all ceasefire, 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 ceasefire. So it was the pro-Iran position to hold ceasefire, and it has been the pro-Iran position to demand a ceasefire since this began. So all of those Western media outlets, all of those Western politicians calling for a ceasefire were advocating a pro-Iranian foreign policy, a sympathy with Iran, a sanction of Iran, Iran, but I'll use a fancy Latin phrase they sometimes use. If we go back to the status quo ante from October 7th, we haven't fixed the problem of October 7th. It is to require there to be more October 7ths. It's to create the situation, go back to the situation that permitted October 7th to occur. And that is, of course, the Iranian position. If consider this, when all those missiles and drones came from Iran directed straight at Israel, an unequivocal act of war that involved hundreds of missiles directed from Iran straight into Israel. If that's not an act of war, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what could possibly be an act of war, even if the damage was minimal and 99.9% of those missiles either failed or didn't or could be prevented. No, all the ceasefire talk in that context is even more repulsively pro-Iranian. Until and unless Iran is dealt with, you will have Hezbollah, you will have Hamas, you will have the Houthis, you will have American and Israeli deaths occurring in that region. Ceasefire means Iran wins. Ceasefire is what Iran wants. When you're the aggressor and you've attacked someone and you sucker punch them, and then someone says, oh, well, let's stop the fight right now, they are on the side of the aggressor. Make no mistake. Kamala Harris, when the current premier candidate for one party in our country, at least presumptively, says ceasefire is the whole thing, she is articulating exactly what Iran wants. She is articulating the pro-Iran policy. Iran is the slow one now. Of course, they have to, when you say they're moderating down to the destruction of all Israelis and the destruction of Israel, destruction of the great Satan America, those were ambitious. And I think they realized, given the devastating precision and accuracy of Israel's military in taking out leaders of Hezbollah in Lebanon and a Hamas leader in Iran, I mean, right down to the house where he was, that's got to leave an impression. And they realize, of course, that their ambitions of destroying Israel at the moment are probably not realizable, or much less their ambition to destroy America. So their best position right now is get back to status quo ante from October 7th so that we can do more and more and more October 7th. Hezbollah won't be affected. Oh, guess what? Sinwar is still alive. Sinwar is still alive. There are still hostages there. Anyone talking, letting the word ceasefire escape their mouth is obviously on the Hamas, Iran side of things. And it doesn't matter whether you are the Democrat candidate for United States president, the Republican candidate for, because remember, Trump said, oh, I got along famously, even though he killed Iranians, I got along so well with them. They respected me. I could cut a deal with Iran. Even Trump wants to cut a deal with Iran. But when you hear this word ceasefire, whether it comes from a British politician or from Vice President Harris, you are hearing the pro-Iran position, nakedly stated. They want to preserve the evil elements that want to destroy Israel. Hamas will be intact. Hezbollah will be intact. The Houthis will be undeterred. All of these proxies. The answer here is what Leonard Peikoff articulated over 20 years ago. End states that sponsor terrorism. And Iran is the state that sponsors all of this terrorism. And if you call for a ceasefire in that context against Iran, then what you are calling for is more violence of the kind that Iran backs and most horribly backed on October 7th. But that's just one horrible example out of many, from the U.S. Marines who were killed 40 years ago, all the way up to what's happening even now with the attacks on Israel. So Iran, realistically, okay, maybe we because look at the failure of it in April, maybe we should go with the ceasefire thing. Maybe that's our best bet. And it is giving them the breathing space they need.
Well, I read a partial quote, and I'll read some more. Peikoff, of course, was right then, and was proven right ever since. And if we don't end the states that sponsor terrorism, they will end us eventually when they are able to do so. By the way, you mentioned the calls for ceasefire started on October 8th. That's actually not correct. So Jeremy Corbyn called for a ceasefire on October 7th in the afternoon, after the attack was pretty much over. And Jeremy Corbyn, of course, the former leader of the previous leader of the party, the Labour Party, which is now in power in the UK. He, among other things, also once questioned why Israel needs to exist. He did that on Iranian television, where he was a paid commentator. So yeah, the left kind of moves in a certain direction, and the rest seem to follow it into that position, and then we end up where we have ended up. Let me read some of what was said here by who is it? The deputy commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. What's his name? Ali Fadavi. It doesn't really matter what his name is, but anyway. The Supreme Leader's orders, this is a quote, the Supreme Leader's orders regarding the harsh punishment of Israel and revenge for the blood of the martyr Ismail Haniyeh are clear and explicit, and they will be implemented in the best possible way. So that's an ongoing thing. So when the UN the UN mission made a statement that Iran's response to the assassination, which they're attributing to Israel, although they're also arresting some of their own people. So those people could be working for Israel or could just be working against the regime, which is not very popular in Iran. They said the matter of the response was, quote, a matter totally unrelated to efforts to broker a ceasefire. And later on, there was a quote, however, we hope that our response will be timed and conducted in a manner not to the detriment of the potential ceasefire. So they're kind of, I guess, walking back some of the previous threats, but they are still intending to attack, and Israel is still sitting and waiting and probably encouraged by America to do so, although I think Israel should act anyway. But you know, when they could attack first and kind of lead rather than follow in this war. So the quote I read at the beginning, I read part of it. The full quote is as quoted by the Times of Israel is our priority is to establish a lasting ceasefire in Gaza. Any agreement accepted by Hamas will also be recognized by us. So yeah, again, Iranian position very much much of it sounds very much like what the West is saying.
All the nations of the world, and this is a very sad thing for me to say, all the nations of the world oppose Israel and are in favor of Iran's continued existence. And that means the continuation of Iran's policy to destroy Israel. And whether it's more explicit or more implicit is really the only difference. American administrations have been coddling and protecting and appeasing and financing the government in Tehran for many years now, to varying degrees. Trump, did cut off, he did enforce the sanctions that Congress had passed disallowing oil trade with Iran. Of course, that's just an embargo on oil when the regime should be taken out. But nonetheless, Trump was a little more restrictive on on Iran, although he was confident he could strike a deal. When it comes to the Democrats, on the other hand, people like Obama and Biden have turned their back on the Iranian people every time they've tried to rise up, every time they've tried to rise up and create a better government than the oppressive theocracy that they live under. And many, many Iranians do. And under Obama, it happened twice. Under Biden, it happened. And every time the American government has turned its back on the better people in Iran who want something better for themselves and their children. And we betrayed the good people of Iran. We betrayed the values of the West in turning our back on the Iranian people who want something better and who, unlike most nations in the Middle East, actually have a significant population that wants something better. No, America has been coddling these dictators who've been oppressing the poor people of Iran for over 40 years now. And we've been repeatedly keeping them in existence, whether we directly feed them, whether we materially support them by allowing them to do trade, petroleum trades with China, or at whatever other level. It is our sanction, our economic permission that allows Iran to pull off October 7th. I will say it. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Biden, in lifting those sanctions, gave billions to Iran. Iran funded Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis in the meantime. America permitted Iran to fund these evil monsters. We've not only been coddling Iran's existence, we've been helping them finance their terrorism so that they can go on and kill more Israelis and Americans. It is disgusting. No, America has been following a pro-Iran, nakedly pro-Iran foreign policy since its inception. Now, I know Ronald Reagan didn't do anything about the Beirut, the Marine base. Well, he had the Soviet Union to worry about, and he was funding the Mujahideen, and he didn't want to get involved in some dispute with Iran right then. America was war-weary after Vietnam. I've heard all the excuses. But from the beginning, America, and even with Ronald Reagan, we've been making excuses so that we can coddle this evil regime, one of the most evil regimes that has ever existed on this planet, the Islamic Republic of Iran. And now Iran, of course, Iran gets this. They get this. That's why they can take a more aggressive verbal stance sometimes, and why this apparent fallback to ceasefire is really nothing but what they want at this point. They don't want Israel or America to attack them. They know they'd lose. Ceasefire is in their interest. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, all of it will continue. That's what they want.
Yeah, the issue of funding is interesting because we hear about the U.S. Aid package to Israel and Biden holding all of it and then releasing some of it. But it's interesting to see how funding works from the U.S. when it comes to Israel and when it comes to Iran, because Iran also gets funded, maybe not at the very this very moment, but it did, and there was potential for more, and the U.S. has said pretty clearly that they'll look at Iran's response, and if it's not too bad, then there's potential for more funding. And again, that's funding in the case of Israel, that funding goes towards protecting the lives of Israelis from savages who want to kill them. In the case of Iran, it goes towards protecting the regime from its own people who want to be free and would probably act more to get to that point if they are hungrier. So it's a very unfortunate state of affairs, the U.S. foreign policy as a
Don't
whole.
you
Yeah.
don't you know, Razi, the last billions that were sent to Iran and cleared to go to Iran were only for food and humanitarian aid. Don't you know? Don't you know? Every dime that goes into Iran supports that regime. I don't care if you can guarantee it's only going to be used to buy food. That's expenses they don't have to pay themselves to feed their people so that they can fund Hezbollah and Hamas, thank you very much, or develop their nuclear program, by the way. It is absolutely insane the kind of rationalizations and pathetic excuses we make every time we financially support, help, fund, sanction, appease Iran, which is, from what I can tell, the de facto policy of the United States government is to protect the evil monsters, the mullahs in Tehran, at all costs. At all costs. They're more. Sometimes I get the impression that Western diplomats are more concerned with preserving the state of Iran than they are preserving the state of Israel.
Yeah, by the way, generally speaking, when you look at, I think this is the case in most Western countries. Certainly, it is in the U.S. Even when the people in power are bad on foreign policy, specifically the people in the foreign office, foreign ministry, State Department, whatever it's called in any country, are the worst. They're absolutely the worst of the worst.
Absolutely.
Because and I guess you have to be in some sense. Somebody a few years ago told me that I'm not very diplomatic, and I took that as a compliment. Diplomacy is a form of dishonesty, as far as I can tell. It is, it's you have to deal with the worst people if you're a diplomat, and you have to treat them as if they're decent people. And yeah, so I
Yeah,
uh,
politician is a really ugly thing to dub someone. Diplomat is an uglier species of politician.
yeah.
They're willing to do it with these international monsters. They'll cut a deal. If you think people willing to cut a deal with anyone within your country is bad enough, compromising on important principles, imagine when you're doing it with Russia, China, and Iran. There you're willing to compromise any principle. And in fact, human lives can be lost in the thousands when you do it that way. Politician is a dirty word. Diplomat is a sort of specialization on the dirty word, saying you're even more scummy, in my view.
Yeah, thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. There's a few comments. I want to read one of the troll. I think this is a new troll. Says you guys are snake oil salesmen. You don't want peace. You want genocide. Well, we do want peace, and we know how that peace can be achieved. It can be achieved by victory, decisive victory in a war, for which you have to first recognize that you are in a war, and you are in a war because savages decided to start that war against you. So yes, we are actually the ones who do want peace.
Nor have
PC
we
says,
stated a desire to commit genocide, nor has Israel or America. Hamas and Hezbollah have explicitly stated a desire for genocide. And, my friend, when you're fighting Nazi Germany, a ceasefire means genocide. What you're supporting is genocide. When you support a ceasefire that keeps Hamas and Hezbollah around, it keeps them around for their stated goal of genocide. How you defeat genocide is how you defeated Nazi Germany in the 1940s, my friend. And that's the kind of war we need. That's the kind of lasting. Notice that Germany is at peace with the world now. Yeah, that's the kind of victory I'm looking for. A world in which there are Arabs living in the area, but who are civilized enough to respect and honor the one nation in the area that respects individual rights, Israel.
yeah,
There's no
and
reason from the outset to oppose Israel's existence except their savage opposition to civilization.
yeah, and it would be great if Israel wasn't unique in that sense, and it wasn't the one country that respects rights. I think that would also be a step towards peace. But no, Israel laying down its arms while savages try to slaughter every Jew in Israel. That is not a recipe for peace. Thank you, PC. Actually, it's not a super chat, so I don't know why I'm thanking you, but I will read your comment. PC says, send Galloway to Iran. Yes, I agree with that. Look, ARCUK is our budget, even though we hear that we're funded by billionaires, our budget is not that great, but we will find the money. We will do a fundraiser maybe for a one-way ticket to George Galloway if he agrees to get it. It will be an economy. He's a man of the people, so I'm sure he won't mind that. Deborah says, Ynet says the Iranians have decided not to attack. I don't trust Iran not to say this and attack anyway. Yeah, of course you shouldn't trust Iran, and I also don't really trust Ynet. I've read since Hania was sent to meet his virgins that several times I've read it's coming in the next 24 hours. It's coming the next 24 to 48 hours. It's going to happen. I think it was going to happen Thursday or Friday. Then it's going to happen on the 11th or 12th. So that report is still not confirmed as false. But yeah, that's a tactic. And by the way, Nasrallah said this in his speech about Hezbollah's response and Iran's response, that having Israel wait is part of the response. And of course it is. Israelis are worried about when this happens, when this is going to happen. And the way to alleviate their worries is to attack first, but I don't see that happening. Liol says Ayn Rand and Iran sound almost the same coming from Razi's lips. I know. I see that with how
Yeah.
the subtitles
How
on
many times
YouTube
have I
show up.
seen that? Yeah, this will happen even when we're not discussing foreign policy. The name Ayn Rand will come across as Iran. Two
Well,
totally opposite things.
yeah, it might sound the same, but as far as the
Opposite
idea
ends
goes,
of the
it's different.
spectrum. Okay. No, Iran is going to make such hay if it doesn't see. If in the next couple of months it doesn't do anything, oh, the Western media will say, "See how restrained, see how civilized the mullahs are." See how wonderful. Oh, they'll get all kinds of praise so long as they don't do anything in the next couple of months. Do you think, how long do you think that will last, my friends? Their desire, their long term goals have not changed. Their ideology has not changed. They will just wait until the current controversy of the moment is gone, get that ceasefire, and then make plans for slaughtering more Jews in the next opportunity they get. Promise. No, ceasefire exactly what they want given recent history. And then watch the Western media cringe and crawl and snivel and give Iran all kinds of kudos and credits for not attacking Israel, for killing one leader of Hamas in their country, as opposed to Iran sending hundreds of missiles and rockets over to Israel directly in April. We live in a crazy Alice in Wonderland upside down world, ladies and gentlemen. That attack by itself should have caused America and Israel to take out the regime in Tehran. Simply doing an act of aggression like that, however unsuccessful it was, their intention is plain, and they are coming close to getting a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, and again, they've been working on that nuclear bomb for a while. We've all known that it's coming at some point. They have told us repeatedly what they're going to do with it. And if you listen to everything they say and not just part of it. There's the death to Israel part, which you might not care about if you're far away and you know the nuclear fallout isn't going to reach you no matter how strong the winds are. But there is the death to America part. That is also a part of it. And death to America chants led by Iranian officials have not stopped while Iran was getting money from the US. They won't stop if Iran gets more money from the US. And it really makes you wonder what needs to happen. What needs to happen and what happens when they actually act on those threats? Will the U.S. be surprised? I mean, we were giving you money. Why are you doing this? Well, we told you. We told you this is coming, and thanks for the cash. It
Their
helped
proxies,
make it happen.
yeah, their proxies can kill Americans. Their proxies can slaughter Israeli civilians. Their proxies can stop international trade through the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. And then America will somehow be surprised that they meant what they said when they said death to America. Huh. No, it is astonishing the evasion that goes on. There's nothing surprising about it. There will be nothing surprising about it when Iran, should they get a nuclear weapon, smuggles it into the United States and blasts it off here. Uh, uh, I doubt even under those circumstances, America would take a clear moral position. That's how far gone we are. That's how far. Couldn't we still work out a peace deal with Tehran, even if they did set off a nuke someplace? That is the level of epistemological insanity that we're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned how, this view is prevalent not just in the State Department, but also in some of the darkest corners of the Israeli left. And I've mentioned the story of Vivian Silver, who dedicated her life to the so-called peace movement and who was killed on October 7th. It took over a month to identify her remains because she was burned by the savages so badly that they actually thought she was taken hostage. My first article for the Ayn Rand Center UK Substack is on the tragic legacy of Vivian Silver and what is being done with her name now that she is gone. We're figuring Substack out. This is our second article. We're trying to see how exactly it works. So most of our content will be behind a paywall. This is for the moment, not if you're watching this live or a few hours after the show. For the time being, this is going to be a free article, and yeah, I think it's a good one if I may say so myself. So I
I
recommend reading
first
it.
The first thing I'm going to do the minute this broadcast ends is go read that article myself, and I recommend everyone else do so as well.
Yeah, by the way, Ayn Rand Center UK members at the gold level or higher, and YouTube members at the inner circle level get their subscription for free. If you sign up for a free subscription, we manually will add you to the behind the paywall content. The James Valliant level of membership, which is a membership that is only available for one person, that's James Valliant also includes that. So even if it's behind the paywall, of course, you get it as well. Tomorrow, we have the Daily Objective, the reality show, but Inner Circle members also get access to our Monday production meeting. So I hope you tune in for that. Part of the reason why we have this level is we want people to engage with us during those production meetings. So if you are there, tell us in the live chat what you think. And Midas Mulligan members have a roundtable meeting tomorrow where we will tell you about some things that are super exciting that are coming up, also known to the members at the James Valliant level, but no one else yet.
Pretty
Uh,
cool, though. Check it out, I gotta say.
yeah. And yeah, thanks, James. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you tomorrow. And we will see you right after this show at the reality show Extra for all members of any level, YouTube or website. Thanks.